Building secure software is of paramount importance in a world that is on an accelerated digitization path. Welcome to the Purple Book Podcast, where we host thought leaders and security practitioners to tackle the monumental challenge of building secure software. Our mission is to spread awareness, challenges, and best practices in secure software development. This show is your guide to hearing inspiring stories of leaders building secure software against odds, and getting to know the personal stories of these leaders who make it all happen. Here are your hosts, the members of the Purple Book community.
All right, so welcome to the third episode of the Purple Book Community podcast. I'm Nitin, Raina, and I have Prabhath with me. Did I pronounce the name right, Prabhath?
Yes, Nitin, you got it right. I go by PK, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Prabhath, or PK. Well, let's use that. PK, could you give a quick introduction to the audience about yourself, please?
Yeah, sounds good, Nitin. So, hey, folks, this is PK. I'm the Global Head of Security and Trust at TripActions. For those of you who are not kind of familiar with TripActions, TripActions is an online end-to-end travel booking and expense management SaaS platform. We have over 8,800 customers and over 2,400 employees, and we have a global presence. I've been with this company for over a year and a half. Prior to this, I was with Adobe as one of the founding members of the Adobe security team. I spent a long time of my career at Adobe for over 9 years and wore several different security hats there. And prior to that, I was with PricewaterhouseCoopers doing security GRC consulting for Fortune 100 companies, and then started my career as a security engineer in a bank. So career security guy. Was very fortunate to kind of land into this field in an unplanned way, but embraced it totally and continued it, and still feel like I have a long way to go. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much, PK. This is really awesome. I'm super thrilled to hear about your experience, your journey. As the podcast host, I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Nitin, Raina, and I'm obviously in the security space. So I am the Vice President, Information Security and Cyber for Thoughtworks. Been with Thoughtworks for close to 12 years, and Thoughtworks is a software consulting professional services organization with 12,000 plus employees globally. We are based in I think it is 15 countries and growing, and with 40 plus offices. So I'm super thrilled to actually host this podcast. So we'll quickly jump on the topic, right, PK? So the topic is a very interesting one, setting up security champions program for success. And I know with your experience in the information security, the product security world, security champions is not a alien term for you. So if I could maybe start off with a question one, right? What is the security champion role at TripActions? If you could maybe take, a few minutes and answer that, please.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely, Nathan. Yeah, it's a very interesting topic, and I'm glad to talk about it. So security champions, in my opinion, are kind of the flag bearers or representatives of kind of like the security organization within specific engineering and product organizations, right? What I mean by that is, of course, we have a central product security team and who's kind of running a lot of product security practices, building the product security program. What I mean by that is some components of this product security program are your, kind of vulnerability management, right? Your SaaS, DAST, SCA, tooling, your design review, threat modeling, and overall, kind of product review process. And then security champions program is also a part of this, right? Part of this overall ecosystem of your product security program. All of us know that overall, we don't get unlimited resources in security, right? We have a limited set of resources, limited set of budget, and with that, we are expected to kind of manage the security risk in the company. Now, when you translate that into the product security world, typically we kind of size the product security team based on the number of engineers and so on and so forth. But it becomes really helpful to have representation within these engineering teams, because these folks are closest to, kind of the development, the planning, the product planning, and then the design, and then overall development work, right? So they can keep a closer pulse of what is going on there. And if we kind of train them as security champions to do some of these activities, like, making sure that the critical vulnerabilities are addressed, making sure that they can do a basic threat model or a design review of, kind of the feature or whatever is being built, and then consult the central security team, product security team for advice, that is the model that, I've seen it working, right? And it's a great, kind of motivation to engineers as well, right? To expand their skill sets, like growth-minded engineers to expand their skill sets, because, all of us know that security talent is scarce and very highly valued overall in our ecosystem. And specifically when it comes to application security and product security, there's even more demand for that kind of knowledge. So it's a win-win, right? It's an incentive to these developers and engineers, and from a security leadership and the security team perspective, it's an awesome way to kind of drive the security agenda deeper and kind of further within the company, and especially among engineering and product teams. So that's kind of how we work, and we achieved pretty good success with this. Yeah.
That's really very, very helpful. And I think I could, the way you are explaining, a lot of similarities, because we are also a software development consulting firm, right? So very similar patterns that I have seen in Thoughtworks, and when we build security champion program across in our organization. So you did touch upon, some key points. You talked about a win-win situation between your core security team, if I could use that word, and then these additional security resources that are there in your in the product development squads, right? And then they are able to understand the bigger picture, and they're also able to contribute, and you can actually multiply, and this is a way in which if you're trying to reach to some conclusion, let's say in the product security journey, you could actually leverage these people. So which is awesome. So when we talk about the core responsibility, and I completely understand most of the organizations are different, like based on the previous podcast episodes that we have recorded, we have seen that different people use this role in a different way. So if I could maybe ask you about responsibilities, if you look at a security champion embedded in a product development team, what are some of the responsibility associated with this role?
Yeah, great question, Nitin. So I am a strong believer that as kind of security leaders, one of our primary responsibility and role is to influence people, right? Influence people to make the right security decisions and make them realize what those decisions are. So, of course, I'll come to your question and I'll kind of specify exactly what in my mind these responsibilities are. But some of the strategies that we've adopted in the past and even right now is that rather than telling them that, hey, here are your responsibilities, the approach that has worked is to actually tell them, hey, here's what a secure development lifecycle looks like, right? Here's what a clean kind of, push to production looks like, right? Here's how a threat model looks like, right? And educate these people, and then kind of make them realize what they're, have them come up with these responsibilities rather than telling them, right? Giving them, saying that this is how good looks like. These are some of the success metrics. And then now, why don't you think about, what you kind of need to achieve as part of the Security Champions program, right? And then steer them in the right direction. I think that approach has truly worked. But to summarize, I think to making sure that overall the vulnerability, like the vulnerabilities that come out of our SaaS-SCA tooling, and I mean, of course, we classify them into various severity levels, right? To make sure that these are remediated within the SLA, to kind of do the first level of triage on these vulnerabilities, right? Because all of them are not, sometimes it needs to be risk appropriate when you kind of try and prioritize features versus, kind of vulnerability remediation, to having that mindset and then consulting the security team on that risk prioritization, and then making sure that, the push to production happens with at least the bare minimum, kind of requirements that are taken care of, and so on and so forth. And then the other one is, of course, the design review and threat model, right? Like do the basic design review and threat model, and it depending on the complexity of the feature, depending on the complexity of the architecture of what the development is actually happening. Some of this, once these security champions come up to speed, I feel like some of them, they can handle it, right? The design review and threat model with experience, and then consult the security team when things get complicated, right? So that we can guide them. And and I've seen this even in my previous experiences. I've seen this work so well, where people developed so much interest in security that eventually these folks joined the security team itself, right? Because they wanted to be security practitioners, right? And that is the success of influencing, if you ask me, from an outcome perspective. So yeah, it was a kind of a long-winded answer to your short question, but I wanted to give you like a 360-degree view of what my thoughts are around this. Yeah.
No, spot on. It was very interesting because you touched on, you touched on influence. You touched on the key aspect where what you're sharing is there is no, a very prescriptive way of defining the security champion role. What happens in your organization is it's evolving, right? It's ever evolving, right? You're looking at capabilities, you're looking at individuals' aspiration, you're also looking at product teams commitment that they have, and how these individuals who are embedded in the team, how can they actually help, because all of the work that we are trying to do has to be oriented or aligned to our organization's goal and objectives, right? So with these people who are embedded or already part of the team, for them, they are learning, they are building their capabilities, they're helping, develop feature set, and also, fix and close these open issues, and, I would call as open vulnerabilities, right? And which is a win-win, right? Win-win for the product team, win-win for you guys, and also for the organization. So that's really, really good. And I'm glad that, your team and the product development leaders are seeing this as a collaborative opportunity, because
Yep.
there are times when I've seen some organizations like, hey, this is no, you're doing my job, or versus, hey,
Yep.
no, this is something that I need to do, and, hey, our jobs will go away, and that's a very anti-pattern to if you look at it that way, which obviously is not happening in your organization. So that's very very interesting for me as well. So if I'll move on to the next one, PK. When you look at a security champion, how does, like, if you have to describe, right, you touched on it already, but if you have to further describe, how does a security champion work within, a team or a function, right? What are the ceremonies? What are the touch points? How do they actually do it? So let's move from the what and the why to a little bit of a how. If you
Yeah.
maybe take
Yeah,
a few
yeah,
minutes
yeah,
to
yeah,
explain that,
yeah.
PK.
So I think the how will depend on the phase at which your program, Security Champions program, is within the company, right? During the initial stages, of course, it will require a lot of training and a lot of, kind of influencing and a lot of communication with this, right? And sorry, even before I get to that, the first step is to identify, right? Identification is the first deal, right? And you need to communicate effectively when you identify these people, right? Otherwise, it's hard unless you communicate effectively in terms of like what is the overall kind of business outcome from this, kind of having this program, right? You need to communicate that, and there is also a certain amount of kind of influencing and kind of convincing that will be needed for their management as well, right? Because I mean, most of the engineering organizations work in sprints, and then this is typically taking away some percentage of their time from a particular sprint, right? So their managers need to be convinced as well. So that's step number one, working with the management folks to identify these security champions. And the second part is, of course, a lot of training, a lot of training in terms of what the expectations are and all of that, right? Then the third piece I would say is once they receive this training and they're clear on the expectations, these security champions representatives are way closer to what is happening in that particular engineering, team or that particular product team, right? So they get an opportunity to be part of the daily stand-ups that their management is holding, where the product management is there. They get feature requests, how they're developing, sprint reviews, daily stand-ups, and all of that, right? So one thing I really encourage these folks is to be vocal about security in those stand-ups, right? Because think about it, like my team cannot be in all these stand-ups. There are like hundreds of teams, and there are hundreds of kind of meetings happen like throughout the round the clock, right? So these security champions get an opportunity to be there, be vocal about what the expectations are from security and all of that. Then a weekly sync up with the central product security team to kind of exchange ideas, right? And then also we set up like a Slack communication where they can reach out to us anytime if they're kind of stuck somewhere, need guidance in some area, where my team kind of jumps onto it and then kind of helps them. But this is how the entire loop should work.
Yeah, that's very good. That's very good. I like the way you highlighted when you said the product development leadership, right? The people who are actually developing the core product, they need to identify. It's a two-way street, right? It's not something which PK has to drive. It has to be joined up. They need to understand. It might have a hit to their capacity. It might, the velocity will be maybe slowed down a bit, but that's okay because you're looking at the longer term. You're looking at, the bigger picture, and they will get a lot of benefits. They're not the reliance on a core central team will reduce, and they will be able to go fast in the mid to long run. That's how I have seen with my organization. And again, we do have client projects that we do, but I have a sizable IT team. I have 500 people in the IT. So we couldn't scale. My AppSec team is relatively small. We have 4 or 5 people. How do we scale with such a big organization? So we started building a security champions program where we are, picking people. Obviously I'll touch on, and ask you the question around training and capability development, but we are setting some level of expectations with their leadership, but also showing them a progress. And this is something which is I spoke about it in the AppSecCon. We are using like a CMMI level maturity model. We are showing the progression that the teams are making in the product security journey across, let's say, 16 control domains. And these people who are highlighted as the security champions play a super crucial role. So they are celebrating the success with their product team. They get noticed. The product development team is getting noticed. We get noticed. It's a win-win for everyone. So I strongly feel that people in the industry who are seeing like, hey, no, I don't want to collaborate. Let's throw the thing over the wall. That that old way of working doesn't really scale, doesn't really help. It actually slows everybody down. So I'm glad that you guys are very progressive in that manner. So very pleased to hear that.
That's very well summarized. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So just talking about, switching the gears in, a little bit, you touched on training and you touched on capability development. So if I take, a particular security champion who's working in, let's say, a product development team A, how do you help them, PK? What structured trainings you provide? How do they learn? If you could maybe share some insight on that, please.
Got it. So there are, I think, two aspects that we need to train them on, right? And these are typically very, kind of technical engineers, programmers, architects, and all of that, right? So the first piece is the security mindset, right? What is that, right? I think what is the appropriate level of risk that the business can accept? What is the appropriate level of kind of security remediation? When to, kind of raise fire, when not to, all those kind of things, the security mindset, right? The second piece is the technical aspects. I think the technical aspects is related to the tooling. I think this again goes back to vulnerability management, the static code analysis, dynamic code analysis, software composition analysis, SAS, DAST, SCA, and whatever tooling that you have, code scanning that you have, and all of that, right? You need to train them on these tools. They need to be very, very familiar with these tools and the signals that come out of these tools, right? To be able to triage and also understand when they need to consult the security team back, and so on and so forth. And that would be number two. And I would say the third one would be, this this is kind of taking a step further, right? Where this is a little advanced, if you ask me, where you actually train them on how to do a threat model, right? How to do a design review, threat model, and overall like a feature review, right? From a security perspective, from an architecture, and also from a secure coding perspective, right? So, I mean, of course, you can't achieve all of this overnight. It's going to be a phased approach, right? I've seen this done over the years in my past experience, and I'm trying to replicate that model here in TripActions as well. But if it is done right, I mean, you can achieve an ideal outcome from this. And then another piece that I've found to be very effective here, Nitin, is all this is good, but then you got to recognize these people. I mean, somebody who's going above and beyond, I make sure that I recognize them in like engineering all hands, right? In front of our senior VP of engineering. And sometimes I send an email out saying that, hey, kudos, right? I think this is fantastic. I mean, this person really moved the needle, right? During this sprint or whatever, right? And then, that's found to be very effective because good work deserves credit. And I think as leaders, it's a responsibility to make sure good work is recognized and rewarded, right? And then, yeah, of course, like making sure that their managers are constantly reminded when somebody is doing good work and making sure that there is a path for them to get rewarded and so on and so forth, right? So these are some of the strategies overall that have been effective. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. I think you touched on the aspect of culture, right? You use the word mindset, but for me, it is how do you develop a security culture in your organization, right? You always, as security leaders for, our respective organization, we always worry, right? Is that one person who's doing the actual code development or a QA role or a BA role, are they really thinking about security, right? Are they, because you and I cannot be everywhere. Neither our team can be everywhere, right? And these are the people who can actually have a trusted connection with those people. They are the ones who will change the mindset, change the culture. And obviously, you have to convert or, revert someone to actually be able to do that. And it's a journey. It takes time. But once you have done that, and once you have done it with, let's say, 30% of the people, 40% of the people, you start seeing benefits. You start seeing people self-reporting issues and concerns rather than you going and saying, hey, by the way, I don't think this is right, I see this as a risk. People will report risks to you or incidents to you. I will just take an example in our organization, Thoughtworks. While we capture a lot of security events that happens on a regular basis, we send something called as go wrongs. So go wrongs is a concept where we celebrate failure. If somebody does something wrong, we obviously anonymize, we remove people's name, but we talk about it, saying this individual in this one team made this one mistake, and there was a near miss because of that. So share it so that others learn from it. But it's a very different way of looking at it, because you're putting a positive spin or a security event or a security incident, and then people learn. So there is no blame culture here.
Yeah, 100%. And there could be a thematic learning from sharing this
exactly,
right?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the positive that we saw, PK, in this. But you touched on the point of training these people on the various tool set. You talked about they actually acting as your security people as well when they are running a threat model. That's the next stage, right? And I was talking to Chitra, who is the product security lead for Auth0, and then somebody like her, she's like, I'm not expecting these people to do that, but I would challenge at some stage, slowly people will make that progression, and it is good. You don't have to grow your team and double the size. This is how we handle a scale of security. You cannot, linearly grow your team and hire more people. So I'm with you on that, and I really love the point of the reward, recognition, motivation. That's so key, and it's important to us. So I think if we look at anybody as as our teammates or our colleagues, we need to do the same. We expect the same from our leaders, and I think they would expect the same from us or from their engineering leaders. So I think that's point blank. This is absolutely a bullseye for me. So I think we are sort of in the last sort of few minutes of the of the session. I want to, just touch on one aspect, right? When you see these individuals who are sort of now your true security champions, if they have to act as a trusted advisor, right? And and on any every organization, whether it's a product company or a services company or a consulting company, they're very different. But if they have to be seen as a trusted advisor to the wider security community, what else do you think one can do to take them to that next level of journey? You already talked about few things, but are there any other, closing thoughts, PK, that you would want to share with the audience?
Yeah, so I feel like, security talent is scarce. All of us know that. And especially when it comes to AppSec and product security, there's even further, kind of level of shortage. So as defenders, right, if you look at it from a broader perspective, as defenders, all of us, when we develop security skill sets, irrespective of where, it could be my team, it could be in someone else's team, it could be from some other, person in another organization that I'm mentoring, right? So irrespective of where it is, I feel as a community we win here, right? We are building, kind of this more defenders, right, who are actually going to be flag bearers of security. So that is number one. And then from a contribution perspective, as I said, I've seen this program to be extremely successful in my previous company, Adobe, where I worked for 9 years, where there's some of these folks actually joined, kind of the product security team, and then kind of grew up the ranks in the product security team, and, kind of were so passionate about it, where they were actually presenting in like conferences and all of that, right? Overall, from a contribution perspective. So, yeah, I think another thing that I've noticed is because of the, kind of the shortage of skill sets and the demand in the industry. I mean, I'm a little biased towards this view, but I'll share it. I feel like if somebody is of growth mindset, they can experience much faster growth being a security professional compared to some of these other fields, right? And and I've seen some people experience that, right, when they moved from different parts of the organization to security, and they contributed to the community, and their career has taken off from that point onwards, right? So yeah, I think this way I feel like there is a broader contribution to the community and our security practice in general, and all of that. Yeah.
Awesome. That's a very, very great sort of note from you, PK. We're almost on the time. Any closing comments from you, PK? If you want to summarize our whole conversation that we have had over the last 20-25 minutes, any closing comments from you?
Yeah, no, I think this was a great conversation. Of course, I didn't prepare for this. Honestly, all the thoughts were very organic, and I got a couple of ideas too based on what you said, Nitin. So it's awesome. I think if I had to summarize this, I just feel like we just need to the future for us security leaders and practitioners to kind of drive successfully security successfully in companies and to actually make an impact is to influence the mindset, right? Influence the mindset, and kind of get more people within the organization interested in security, incentivize, and then drive it, right? So that would be what I would summarize at a very uber level, right? From maybe somebody else can, somebody else who's not thought about it could think about it and drive it. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I think that summary is excellent, PK. For me, my takeaway, from this episode for the audience is largely going to be, it's easier to have somebody who understands your business. So if you have a person who understands, whether it's TripActions, Adobe, Thoughtworks, but they understand how things work and they get the core. And a security champion could be in finance. It could be in a product development team.
Yeah.
It could be in marketing. It could be any function. But if that person understands the function and has an inclination to learn and build on, the capabilities of security or even risk to some extent, right? Allow that person, give that person the tools, the training, the space to actually grow. And that itself is such a wonderful thing, because that individual will grow. So you will see the individual growing, but you'll also see direct impact to that function, that product team or the organization. So I can't agree more with you, PK. Thank you so much for your time today. It was really wonderful talking to you, and I know you were very busy, so thanks for taking your time. And I'm hoping the audience enjoy our episode as well. So thank you again.
Yeah, thanks, Nitin. It was a pleasure. And I'm sure you're a super busy person as well. So thanks for doing this and having an engaging conversation. And I hope everybody enjoys this as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to the Purple Book Podcast, home of the world's top security leaders. If you enjoyed this episode, find more content from our experts at thepurplebook.club. Remember, it's thepurplebook.club, not .com. Follow us at the Purple Book Community on LinkedIn and Purple Community on Twitter. Until next time, these are your hosts and guests signing off.